From the belly of the Beast Coast, Glastonbury, Connecticut, this is the Cultra Trail Running Podcast. We talk about all the fun shit that happens on the trails that most normal people don't care about. The language we use is f***ing explicit and raw like the trails we run on, so don't listen with your kids! No kids. Cultra is brought to you by our Patreons and supporters, and we are 112% listener supported, and support is good.
All right. Welcome everybody to the Cultra Trail Running Podcast. I'm your host, Art Byram, and I'm joined by members of the Cultra crew. I have Anna G.
Hey there.
How you doing, Anna?
I'm great. Thank you.
Very good. And Phred Marolo.
I'm here.
Very good. Again, and you're not at the finish line, too. I saw you there.
I'm not at the finish line.
Yeah.
So if you finish, you won't see me because I'm not.
That's right. So don't go to the finish line, people. So today we welcome author Martin Dugard to the Cultra Trail Running Podcast. Martin's the #1 New York Times best-selling co-author of the Killing series and author of the new book, The Long Run. Steve Prefontaine, Frank Shorter, Joan Benoit, Greta Waitz, and The Decade That Made the Marathon Cool. He's also a director of the USA Track and Field Foundation Board, USATF Foundation executive, and is a successful cross-country and track and field high school coach with at least 3 state championship wins. But wait, there's more. He's also a fellow of Great Britain's Royal Geographical Society, which is an organization that dates back to the 1830s and provided support for explorers like Livingston, Stanley, Scott, Shackleton, Hunt, and Hillary of the Hillary Step. My wife actually got her master's in geography. So I saw that and I was like, wait a minute, I've heard of this place. So basically, you should fit right in with Cultra. So welcome, Marty, to Cultra.
Yeah, Art, thanks for having me. This is great to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you here.
That's what people say at the beginning, Marty, but at the end, a lot of times they're saying like, oh my God.
At the end, right? Yeah.
I spent 2 hours with you guys.
It's kind of like an ultra, like, why did I sign up for this? I'm never doing this again. I mean, that's kind of what Des said, right? When we had Des Linden on a while back.
She was very nice. But
she said,
she was like,
she said we were her 112th favorite podcast, though. So that was pretty good. So that's pretty good. Before we get started, though, on our episode tonight, I think we really need to recognize some of the historic events that took place this Sunday in the running world, right? I mean, I know you guys watch the news and you guys pay attention to what's going on and things like that. So I'd like to congratulate the Cultra Aid Station, which took first place at aid stations at the Jack Bristol Lake Warramug 100K and crushed the aid station over at Berks, right? So isn't that pretty good?
I saw the thing that said Ultra rules and Berks drools. I'm just saying.
That's right. So congratulations to everybody who ran over at Lake Warramug, the country's oldest 100K. Congratulations to race director Bill Odendahl for another great year there. We also, Cultra set a personal best of making more than, I think, about 50 pizzas we put in our oven there, baked them from scratch. So, or semi-scratch, I guess. So that was good. But also, I don't know if you guys heard this, it's lesser news, much less important, but the 2-hour marathon was broken in London, right?
That's what I heard. That's a rumor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Sebastian Sawe broke the 2-hour marathon, which was a historic thing. I mean, I think in our lifetime, today we're going to be going back and talking a lot about running history and things like that. So I think that when it happens like this, you got to kind of look at that and try to put it into perspective. And the fact that 2 people did it is even more, incredible. Lots of factors probably went into that, super shoes, nutrition, and who knows what else, right? Different training methods. And, I guess, it's still something though, that I think that we really have to recognize and just understand that this very well could be something that people are looking back and writing books about in the future. So Marty, maybe this could be your next project, right?
Actually, when I was out running this morning, I kind of thought about it, but I realized that by the time I finish it, I think that 1:59:30 is going to be obsolete. So,
Yeah.
it was an amazing thing. And you forget too, the guy who finished third also broke the marathon record. So
Yeah.
it just shows, with the shoes, the bicarb, the proper, carb loading, and it's a different kind of carb loading. It's not a plate of spaghetti. It's a very orchestrated pre-race
Yes.
and mid-race thing.
Mm.
I think it's going to be amazing how fast this is going to get.
Yeah, I think according to their feed plans, they reportedly were having about 130 grams of carbs an hour. I think is what I read. If you include the goo, or the nutrition that they took 5 minutes before the race started. Which is basically might as well be at the, at the first mile.
I think what we're seeing is that for the first time, competitive cyclists, Tour de France style cyclists, kind of latched on to this ideal 3 or 4 years ago, maybe longer. Triathletes, the top triathletes began doing it too. And this is the first time that I think we've seen that and we probably saw it at Boston too. We didn't pay as much attention because they didn't break two. But this whole idea of, knowing exactly how many carbs you put in your body during a race and before a race. I mean, you think about Frank Shorter in 1972 drank defizzed Coke during, the Olympic marathon and drank about half the bottle and threw it away. So it's a different game.
Wow. Yeah, it certainly is, right? I mean, I think that we were, at least I was raised in a what do you call it? Kind of like during the Depression years, it seemed like, you know what, you just buck it up and be tough. And the more you beat yourself up, the better off you are. And it makes you tough so that you don't need to drink water. You don't need, we were taking salt pills, and told not to drink any water in gym class, right? Because you would cramp up and,
I think, wasn't it like Ron Hill won a marathon without drinking any water?
Yeah.
Back in the late 60s. That's like crazy stuff. But even when I first started doing ultras, the conventional wisdom, like Jurek and those guys would say that you can only process 30 grams an hour of
correct,
carbs, and that's just wrong.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That's what I had heard, and it was like, why pollute your stomach with that? And I think I always tried to take in as much as I could, because sometimes, especially in the ultras, you just get so desperate out there. You hurt and you just want to do something. It's almost like a nesting behavior. And then you get ultra gut and you get all sorts of stuff going on. But the new nutrition that's out there, we've talked about it a bunch. It's a game changer. You don't get the fatigue, the palate fatigue. You don't get all the things that, it's not typical goo that you're trying to suck down. This stuff you can't help but swallow. It like swallows itself almost, if that's a thing. So, listen, but before we get into the running too much, I thought maybe we could hear about your earlier days. So rumor has it you were born in Maine. So
I was. Yeah.
I wanted to find out if you had any good gator stories from Maine.
No, look, my dad was an Air Force pilot, so I was born in Kittery, Maine.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the only time I have been in Maine ever since, because right on the opposite side of the river was, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which is where I lived until I was 4. And then we got hopscotched around the country during my dad's career. Ended up in Southern California, but I ended up going back to Michigan to race in college. So been a little bit of everywhere, but I really began running for real after that shorter marathon in 1972 when we lived in Sacramento. I raced in high school and college, and I went on and did, the usual, the marathon, triathlon. I did 2 ultras, but they're kind of baby ultras, like 50 Ks, but really, really tough course up in the Saddleback Mountains. I did adventure racing for a long time, the Ray Galois Eco Challenge. I even did a little bit of mountain biking, and I didn't do well, so I I don't enjoy mountain biking. So I like to be out on the trails by myself, and it's super fun. But yeah, I've pretty much been a runner, since I was 11 years old. And, you know, fast a while ago, not so fast right now, but still, like this morning, had a beautiful trail run on a great sunny day. So it's kind of a thing.
Very good. Yeah. That's awesome. Kittery is the starting point of the what they call the Eastern States 20-mile run that runs across New Hampshire. So it goes from Maine to Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's just 20 miles. It's 3 weeks. Usually it's 3 weeks in a day before Boston. So,
so no flies at that time of year.
No, it's just windy as hell. So, you learn how to tuck in, and it's very much like London, I suppose, in that regard, is that it's a great time to dial in nutrition because it's pretty much a flat course. There's just a little bit of roll to it. And you can just kind of run with packs and work on your pacing, and kind of, it's a good shakeout run to figure out where you are and what you could expect to, your final decision maker on what you think you should try for when Boston comes. So usually has a good crowd.
Is it trails or roads?
That's all roads.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all roads, mostly right along the coast.
Oh, nice. So, yeah. Beautiful.
Can I ask how you, like when you were 11 years old, what prompted, how did you sort of officially decide running was your sport?
I was very small. B, I wasn't good at Little League. Literally, I watched Shorter run that Munich Marathon, and I don't know what came over me, but I literally told my parents I was going to go play with my friends up the street. Instead, I ran 4 miles in my jeans and my Pro Kids and my little tank top, and it just, we had done something at school called I think it was the 10-minute run or 6. Anyway, it was part of the president's physical fitness challenge, and I surprised myself because I had never really been good at sports, but I wanted to be good at sports. And when we did that thing, I finished second, and the guy who actually eventually went on to run a sub 4-minute mile. And I knew the minute I finished that I had found my sport. And then as I grew and as we, when you move a lot as a kid, if your dad's, in the military or some other job like that, it can be a little bit lonely. So if you have a commonality in how you spend your time. And so for me, it was running wherever we went. And I'm not a road guy. I don't like a straight, flat, paved section. I tend to find all the trails, even if they're just the grass strip on the side of the road. So that became my thing.
Very good. Very good. So could you tell us about Callie?
Oh, that's my wife. Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw that you dedicated the book to her. I just thought, when did you guys meet, or how did you guys meet?
Well, we met May 17th, 1986. I was the bartender and she was the cocktail waitress in a little strip mall restaurant in Irvine, California. And
sounds like a song, Marty. That much is true.
she was the hot brunette, and she was finishing graduate school, and I was taking my time getting through college, and I realized that I better get on the stick and finish things up quickly. So, yeah.
And she gave you a chance anyway.
She gave me
in grad school. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, I hustled. I got very motivated. Yeah. She, tremendous woman.
Excellent.
I would like to point out for the record that is also the day that I graduated law school.
No way.
May 17th, 1986.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm amazed that you remember the actual date. That's very impressive.
Wow.
You know what? I do 2 things. I'm a historian with my books, and I'm a track coach. So all I know is historical dates and split times. So it's a weird thing, and I can't do common math, but I can do split math in my head.
Yeah, it is. So about your book, I did notice something. I thought that the long run, I thought it was kind of it's trying to sum it up and trying to figure out what the book was about. First of all, I have to say that it was an absolute joy to read. I just loved
Oh,
the
thank you.
book. I really did. It was but it was more than that, because it was I just wrote down something about it to try to sum up how I felt about it. And I said that The Long Run is a selective history book narrated with Bill Bryson's humor, Ken Burns's historical accuracy, and Dr. George Sheehan's credible perspective as an experienced runner. The stories are told in such an interesting way. So I have to ask you about your voice as an author. And has it changed over the years, or would you say that this has been your style since you started writing? Or maybe not one that you always are as free with, but has this always been, is that your normal, like, internal dialogue?
It's changed, and I've been doing history for 30 years. When I left the corporate world in 1994 to become a writer full time, I didn't think I'd become a history author. Actually, at the time, I was writing for, competitor and triathlete and runner's world. But when I kind of limited myself with my voice, and then as I got more confident as a writer, I think what you do is you start finding a voice with just word placement in sentences, and how you want to present them to the reader. But after a while, you kind of get a different kind of voice, and it's fun. But I didn't really, and I've had it for a while, but this is kind of the highlight of it, because when I was writing about running, originally the book was just supposed to be about the 1970s running boom. And what it does is it goes all the way from, long before that, all the way right up to the present. So it's not a book just for people who were, fondest for the 70s. But as I wrote it, because I lived it, I felt a certain liberty to kind of put myself in there. And also, too, as a lifelong runner, when I was talking about running, I didn't feel like a detached correspondent writing about something that was new to me. It was, there's stuff in there about, people if you're a runner, every bathroom and every bush and every water fountain in town.
Right on.
Yeah.
When I wrote that, it wasn't one of those things where I was taking liberties. It was like this. It's just fact. This is
right on. Yeah.
That actually, I was going to say that section I absolutely keyed in on immediately. So I think I might have even like dog-eared the page. I was like, oh yes. It speaks to a lot of people, that comment. Yeah.
It does. And the fact that you were able to, like, your appreciation for history, the way that you present it, and then the way that you kind of dangle the hook in the water and wait for people to kind of take the bait and then say, but wait, there's more. It wasn't the start of the marathon. It wasn't the queen that did it. It wasn't the finish. It was the start. And it was not this person, but it was, it read like a Clue mystery, like,
Okay,
so it was really interesting. And I found that I was constantly, like, I know these stories, right? Or at least I thought I did. All of them I kind of have an idea about, but then to hear additional details, filling them in, and then to tie all of these people together. Like, I know Bill's story. I know Joni's story. I know the Greeks and the in the Olympics, but then to kind of tie them all together and and string that thread through the whole thing was just wonderful, wonderful to read. So, where with this voice, where did you get that sense of humor? Were one of your parents kind of, not snarky isn't the right word for it, but like,
it's funny, but you say that, you say sense of humor, and other people have said it's motivational. When I wrote it, I was just trying to write it straight. I was just trying to, kind of write the story, but do it with an insider's voice, so that people who run, and maybe people who are attracted to running, would read it and say, "This is kind of fun. It's not drudgery. It's not boredom. It's kind of a cool thing." And for instance, I mentioned very offhandedly the idea of the romance run, and it's just a line. And people keep asking about it, but the genesis of that line is, spending a weekend on the North Shore of Hawaii with, in a hotel room with just my wife and I and our 3 teenage sons, and trying to find a moment to ourselves. So we went for a long run into the jungle and let nature take its course. So, I mean, that's one of the sides of running people don't talk about very much anymore, but I was really glad to put that in there because if it had been just a dry, boring, I ran 50 miles or 100 miles and this is how I felt. I wanted it to be something where people related to me as a character, but not have me overwhelm the story.
Yeah. I think it would have been really easy to make this book very boring. Like in the first time that, in America, you could have like given the announcer voice to Frank Shorter's, finish, but like the fact that you talked about like, the imposter that came in the stadium and the whole thing, like the 72 Olympics, maybe we could talk about those for a little bit, or that time period. That was the first Olympics that I think you have maybe 3 years on me. But I think that was the first Olympics that I remember. Like I specifically remember watching because I was outside and my mom called me in and said, listen, I know you're doing something else, you're outside playing right now, but you need to come in right now because there's some history going on TV. And,
cool.
There's a terrorist attack right here. And, and you need to see this and because you're going to remember this, and it was true, so and Frank McKay, right? It was
Jim McKay.
Jim McKay. Sorry. Yeah.
Jim McKay basically live streamed the entire, like what you would call live streaming the entire terrorist attack. Now he was on forever.
Yeah.
Going through that.
So if you go to Munich and you want to pay a visit to the location of the Olympic Stadium, the athletes' village, it's still very much like you've seen on TV. There's a wonderful memorial to that, but it's really eerie. You get off the train and you're kind of looking around trying to orient yourself, and then you look up and see those white buildings and it takes you right back. And you've seen, even for people who weren't alive back then, there were so many pictures of that moment, and it's student housing right now. And I'm sure that was once, the place where the captives are held. I'm sure inside there it's more of a memorial, but just to look at it and see it, and it's kind of surreal. And then, of course, as you walk across there's a bridge over the highway over to the stadium. It's only 400 meters, but there's a really great memorial just outside to all the Israelis.
Yeah, it was for me, it was just such a, it was just such a moment. And I remember so many things about that Olympics. The funny thing, though, is being that I run now, is I don't remember any of the running, to be honest with you. I remember like Olga Korbut, and I remember like the basketball game because my father was throwing things and yelling. It was like, how could they, where they, they like, we won the game and then they stopped the game and they put a second on the clock and they threw a Hail Mary down and all of a sudden they're winning the game and we're like, wait a minute,
The Turkish ref made the defensive player back up so they couldn't guard against the long pass. Like the whole thing was
it's political.
Yes, it was so political.
Yeah.
I just want to say I feel left out. I was born a year after that.
I knew that. I was gonna make fun of you.
Oh my God. If I was
that.
just even born, I was just born, like 9 months later.
That's right.
No, but it's like not when you're 9, 10, because the ones that I remember are 1984. So which is when I was like 11. So.
9 months later?
Or I don't
I'm just saying, like maybe it was an important Olympics to you.
Good point. Romance run. Yep, it's all coming together. My parents actually were runners at some point.
So that explains
Frank Shooter's win was a big deal, Anna. I think that could have led to romance.
That's right. Hold it and wait. What's your middle name? No, maybe. Okay. Oh my gosh. So I know over the years you've written about so many different topics, from like, the whole killing series and I mean, there's just so many different topics. Maybe could you just kind of give us a like maybe rattle off some of those topics that you've written about?
Oh, sure. I mean, my first history book, sports is in running, in the bigger literary world is a little bit, I don't want to say a ghetto, but it's very much a niche area. And so I wanted to go a little bit bigger. That's when I began writing history, probably 1979 or no, I'm sorry, 1999, 2000. And I wrote about Captain Cook, the explorer. And the one thing I knew about history, because I had a history minor in college, was that I didn't like to read history because it was so boring. And so my goal was to write history in a way that was a page turner, like a spy thriller. And I first began experimenting that with Captain Cook. And, I was a new young writer. I didn't have the confidence that I have now. So I kind of was very tentative about, breaking convention with how you tell history. And then I wrote about Stanley Livingstone in Africa, which was super fun. Got me arrested in Tanzania, which was interesting, just because.
Tell us about that. How did that happen?
So I met with two buddies. We met in Zanzibar, and we hired a driver once we got to the mainland, and I wanted to recreate Stanley's route across Africa, and so we drove inland, and once you get a few hours away from the ocean, it's primal Africa. It's just the smell of the air, the dust, and the tang of, a very wild place, a place where you see, lions in the wild. It was that kind of thing. And then the driver said, well, we can't take the route that you want to take because there are bandits on the road. We need to take this other route, which took us all south to Zambia. And as we got to Zambia, then we made the left turn north back to where we needed to go. There's a crowd in the street and a young child. And so the crowd was splitting because a car was coming. Our driver sped up and he hit a child. And I was in the back seat on the driver's side. I literally saw this little girl fly through the air. Her shoes flew off. It was horrible. And we yelled at the driver to stop the car. And no sooner did we open the doors than people came at us with knives and clubs, and it was really scary. So we decided we're just going to go to the next town, and make our case that, it had been an accident, And so we get to the next town. There's already a roadblock for us. This is 5 hours of driving through the savannah. And the driver in Swahili told the police at the checkpoint that I was the driver and that he had been sleeping back.
Crap.
And so they got in the car and they had their AK-47s. They squeezed us in the back seat, and the guns were literally poking at my head. And I had to kind of ask the guy to point it up towards the bedliner. And we spent 3 days in as guests of the country of Tanzania in a little kind of a holding area before they finally realized that the driver was not telling the truth, and the little girl lived, which is great. And they were more concerned not about the little girl, but the fact that somebody else had hit a car. Anyway, make a long story short, that was my big adventure with that.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And we eventually made our way safely back to the States, but at the time I had 3 young kids, and my wife and I, and so I called her when I finally get back to the Netherlands, and she said, haven't heard from you for a week. What's going on? I've been terrified. And I told her, and it was kind of shaky. It was not your usual history adventure for a researcher.
And so did that cause any problems between you and your wife where she said, like, hey, you know what? I don't think this isn't the best course of action. Like, you got to kind of tone it back a little bit or anything, or no?
No, credit where credit is due. I mean, I went on to do, I for a while there, I just traveled and traveled and traveled. I'd make satellite phone calls to her from the jungles of Borneo. When I was researching a book about Columbus, I was on Jamaica, and it was funny because I hired this driver to take me to this place where Columbus had been shipwrecked for a year. And no sooner do we drive away from the hotel, and he says, so do you want some ganj? I said, no, I'm good. He said, do you want a woman? And I said, no, I'm good. I just really want to go to this spot and look at it so I can describe it in a book. And it was the weirdest thing. And then he goes,
I just want to look.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to look at the scenery. Columbus spent a year there, and I wanted to look out and see what he saw. And
Sure. Yeah.
then the driver thought I was nuts, but he drove me around. But the good thing is, once our kids got into college, my wife began traveling with me, and she was my biggest cheerleader. And so when I wrote The Long Run, we had done a number of things. Like when I was researching a book about the Killing Patton book, there was a place called Fort Driant, which is what a German occupied fortress that was hidden in the woods, and is really pivotal to the story. So I wanted to find it, and it has since been overgrown by all sorts of vegetation, but we did find it. And out of the car, we climbed up on the roof, which is where the Americans made their way into the fort. We went inside the gun emplacements. And later, when I told somebody that I had been there, he goes, "Oh, who's your guide?" And I said, "No, we just found it, and we went in and looked at it." He said, "There is unexploded ordnance all over the place." And we just got dumb luck. So that was our thing. When I did the Patterson book about the murder of King Tut, we got to, gallop horseback beneath the pyramids, which was really, really cool. And just we had a number of great adventures. So instead of telling me not to do adventures, she actually encouraged them and came along.
Oh, good. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. It is nice when you have somebody traveling along with you. I did hear, I do recall you mentioning, investigating, I think, the Greek parts of the story, right? And I think you went to Greece with Callie as well. Is that right?
You know what? I didn't go to Greece. I didn't feel like I needed to. It's just one of those things where the story had been written so many times, and I was more interested in finding the fact versus the myth.
Oh, okay.
And it was just one of the you kind of got to pick your destinations, because when you're writing a book, if you fly off someplace every time you want to explore some new place, you're never going to write. So, So I had to kind of pick and choose. So like we went to Munich to be inside the Olympic Stadium to kind of read the Prefontaine shorter day. Went to the part of London where the old White City Stadium stood and found, the actual finish line, which there's a monument to it, which is super cool. And we did a lot of things like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess both of those things are much more are closer to the core message of the book. So rather than although you did use, you talked in the beginning a bit about Greece and the origin. That story has been told, and there's probably less to be witnessed at this point, like you said, or other people have kind of dug pretty deep on that.
That was kind of my thinking. I couldn't imagine the old marathon course, which is a long uphill, by the way. When I asked Dina Castor, because when Dina Castor got her medal at the Olympics in Athens, she had mentioned that she found a similar place near where she trains in Mammoth Lakes to recreate that. And I kind of thought it was like this long, steep turn on Old Mammoth Road. Instead, she pointed me to an area well outside town, which involved like a 13-mile grind into the city. So that's what she trained at, which was very much like the Olympic course was originally.
Yeah.
Can I ask, was this writing this book process different than other books because of this being like your passion and perhaps obsession? How was the experience writing this book versus maybe one on Patton? Not to say you aren't interested in Patton, but like this is your personal hobby, that you spent a lot of time on.
Those books were for money. This one was for passion. And I don't mean to be vulgar, but I'm a working writer. So everything you do when you sell a book is you're just trying to pay the bills and get ahead and keep writing for the rest of your life. But when I started writing this book, and I started kind of, when you do these things, you start with the central premise, like when did the running boom start, and how does it affect us now? Then you have to go back to add context, which means going all the way back to the Battle of Marathon. And somewhere in the middle of that, you realize that you have a point of view on all those things, and you want to share that point of view. But if you do it in a way that's kind of all about me, or if it's more memoir, instead it's like that insider running philosophy, like, hey, kind of nudge, nudge, what this feels like. That when I got started doing that, that's when it really got fun. And I will say that I had a great time writing this book.
Great. So you wrote a lot of books with television personality Bill O'Reilly that you co-authored. So what was that like? And what
Wait a minute, I have to stop this for just a second. Anna, are you drinking Hetty Topper?
Yes, I am.
You are. Wow, the prince of
yes,
diapers.
my local store had 2 packs left, and I immediately bought them. Yes,
of course you did.
Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. Carry on.
Wait, I gotta know.
Good eye though. I'm impressed.
What is Hetty Topper?
It's like a niche beer that you can only get in Vermont, except for like once on one Tuesday a month in Connecticut. Like you have to actually go to Vermont to get it.
Anna has her people go to Vermont and get it for her.
It's the company's called The Alchemist. They have this and another one, and they're just sort of prized possessions. They're all, I mean, you can go to Vermont into a food store and get it like immediately, but they're not like distributed easily.
So it's a double IPA. Oh. It's delicious. And
it's really tasty.
They also have another one called Focal Banger. And I don't know why I'm doing an ad for Hetty Topper right now, but it's really good if you like beer.
Marty, it's basically the cores of New England.
Okay.
Right. I think you even talk about that in your book, right?
I do. But double IPA, good choice. Big fan. So
excellent.
If you're ever in Vermont, Marty, just ask for a Hetty Topper. You will not be disappointed.
Okay, I will do that. I will definitely do that.
So tell us a little bit about what it was like to work with Bill O'Reilly.
Well, I've got to, like with anything, let me set the story. So back in about 2007, 2008, when the economy was tanking and, inflation and, mortgage rates were way up, my job, which is to sell books, was not going well. I mean, the whole publishing world was imploding. And so I was up in Mammoth Lakes with my team during our summer high altitude camp. And I'd been struggling to sell a book for a while. I think the book before that had been about the Civil War, and it didn't do well. So I was kind of just hanging on. And my agent called me and said, "Can you be in New York day after tomorrow for lunch? I've got a client who wants to write a history book." And so he didn't tell me who it was. Got on the plane, flew, actually I drove through the night to Reno, got on the plane, made my way to LA, to New York, and had lunch with Bill. And I'll be quite honest, I didn't know who Bill was. I knew that my dad knew who Bill was. And it was just one of those things where I kind of pretended to know who he was. But we had a great lunch, and he's a big, tall guy. He's like 6'4", and the whole lunch, he kind of looked across the table at me and looked me right in the eye. But we had a deal by the end of lunch. And so it was supposed to be a one-off, just Killing Lincoln was going to be the book. And, of course, that did really well. Then that led to Killing Kennedy and Killing Jesus. And then, a total of 14 books. And, the one thing I will say about this, and I think it's really important to note, Bill and I never talked politics. So when I finally came out and told him that my politics were not the same as his, he was pretty shocked, and that wasn't until 2024. So we did a pretty good job a long time about just keeping it very much about the history. And if you read the books, they're not political in any way, shape, or form. They're very historic books. And he gave me the liberty to research and write the books in the way that I had long wanted to write history, which was, fast-paced, page-turning, you are there, that kind of thing. And I think that's one of the reasons they became very successful.
But you left the bestseller list littered with bodies, Marty, right?
I know. And but sometimes it was kind of fun, just because the research, you learn so much about history that you wouldn't know unless you wandered into these dark corners. Some of the stuff, like when we wrote about the SS or the end of World War II in Japan, that got a little heavy, and that kind of stuff. The Killing Jesus, writing about the crucifixion and in great detail, it stays with you. It's not the long run. These are things where you have to do deep, dark research about people doing heinous things, where it just, you don't emerge from that for a long time. Whereas with the long run, every day sitting down to work was a joy.
And the long run's kind of episodic as well, because it's such a there's multiple people that you're talking about, multiple events, and you know, and things like that. I find sometimes when you dive too deep into one very specific subject, it can get a little bit I find it gets a little bit crazier. But
well, somebody asked me recently if I was to pick a character out of the book and just write about that character. I said no, I wouldn't want to do that, because with a book like this, you get the best of each character. You get the best of Pre, you get the best of Shorter,
yes,
you get Joni, you get the best of Greta, Bill Bowerman. But if I was just to do a bio on one of them, it wouldn't be as much fun. It would be and stuff like that. It's kind of hard to write, because as a writer, if you're bored, the reader's going to be bored. And if I was to sit down and do a pure bio on Pre, I'd have to talk about just the highs and the lows. I wouldn't be able just to write about the glory moments.
Yeah.
Did you go to Oregon?
Oh yeah, I've been.
Did you go? Did you run up to his rock? Because
I've been to his rock.
That is not easy.
No,
I was impressed by that. Hearing the fact that you said that he got killed on the place that he ran to. I went to a track meet there and then drove up there afterwards. And I like, when people say, "Oh, I couldn't drive that far," I don't know. Like I almost couldn't drive up that hill. Like that would be a hill. No wonder he was.
That's steep. But Hayward Field, I went to the old Hayward before they redid it, and then I've been to the new one. I like the old one better. It just had more mystique to it. It just had more, you just had a feeling that you were at someplace special. But the new place is great, but it's not the old Hayward.
Yeah, I somehow
say that about Yankee Stadium too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The old stadium before '76 that was something.
Both are true. Yep, I agree. I agree on both points there.
Do you when you're running yourself, do you work through your book ideas, or do you actually do you want to break from your work? Your work sounds really fun, right? But it is still work. So I'm just curious, like how when you're running, do you think about you're working through these ideas and things? Yeah.
The frustrating thing is, like, if I'm stuck, I write in the morning, and about 11 or 12, I live 500 meters from a trailhead, so I just get out there. The problem is if you get stuck when you're writing and you're trying to figure out, like, what's the next sentence, what's the next paragraph, what's the next chapter. Within 5 minutes of starting a run, that problem will solve itself in your head.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is you're still just starting your run, and you got to remember it by the time you get back.
I knew you were going to say that. I was like, it can't just be me, right? It can't just be me.
Well,
I just voice text to myself, like write a note to myself.
Part. Yeah. I don't carry a phone. I don't listen to music when I work.
That's good. Yeah.
But it would make life a little bit easier if I did do that. Yeah, but
just keep on repeating it over and over in your head until you get home. Yeah.
No, that's what I do. It's like, okay, don't forget, these, right. Then, or sometimes it just disappears like smoke, and you're back to where you started.
As you were, because I think, obviously you were a student of running before you began this book. So you most likely, you obviously knew about Shorter to a certain degree. You knew about Prefontaine and everybody else there. And then in the book, a lot of times there were threads that kind of connected each of them. And those were some of the parts that I enjoyed a lot, like where you talk about Pre sending Bill Rogers a pair of shoes, right? Because for me, it's such a twist, because I think of Pre, obviously, as a young man, as a young, strong youth. And I think of Bill Rogers, who I see probably every year, once every 2 years. He showed up at my gym the other day. So, and I think of Bill in his current state, although I can look at a poster of him, above my monitor here. So when you said that, those two had that connection where Pre sent him the pair of shoes, where I think he won his first Boston. Is that, if I have that right?
That was first Boston. Yep.
Yeah.
1975.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I thought that was a great, that was a great detail.
Well, that's the fun thing about a book like this, or any history book. It's like once you start researching and really doing the deep dive and really opening yourself up to looking at a problem from every angle,
Mm.
you find moments like that. I never knew that happened until I started writing the book. I never knew that Phidippides wasn't real. I never knew about Lord Desborough and the London Marathon in 1908. So,
Mm.
it's for
Me
instance,
neither.
with that London Marathon 1908, I mean, the Queen Mary cruise liner has been in Long Beach for years and years and years. I've been on board. And to
Yes.
find out that the Queen Mary I wrote about in the book, who often gets blamed for extending the London Marathon, is the person who the ship was named after, made me really happy. But then to find out that 32,000 people last year ran the marathon and ran right past that ship and didn't even know it had anything to do with the history of the
Mm.
marathon. It's just kind of a neat thing. It's the same, with Pre and all that kind of stuff with Pre and Rogers, and all these little moments that kind of open themselves up. And the trick, or I should say the job of the author, is to weave them all together so they don't feel like standalone events. And so you can go back to the Battle of Marathon, then you can go to where we are now with somebody breaking 2 hours in London, two guys breaking 2 hours. It's all woven together. It's just part of the fabric of the same cloth. And my job is to not only bind things together, but do it in such a way that keeps you turning the pages and makes and maybe brings a smile to your face or makes you laugh.
Mm. Well, it was very, very well done. Um, so there were there any connections that you discovered? Like it's kind of almost like a Strava. I look at it almost like you go for a run and maybe you pass a couple people or something like that, and then you go and you look at your flyby on Strava. You see who ran by you the other direction, and it's all of a sudden like, oh, these paths almost crossed here, or they did cross there.
Yeah.
Um, were there any connections that really surprised you that you were like, wow, I really didn't know that these two were related somehow?
Well, two things. I didn't know that Bowerman was so pivotal to everything that happened. He was the guy, he's the glue that holds the thing together. But also, too, I didn't understand the timeline as well as I thought I did. So when I was writing the book, kind of starts in 1970 with the first New York City Marathon, 127 people start, 55 finish. Then you go through, shorter Prefontaine 1972, and I kept waiting for like when do the women come into this? Because women, there were 6 women who protested the 1972 New York City Marathon so
Mm-hmm.
they could run. But in my mind, the women had always been there. But when did they really become significant? And I didn't realize it was until 1978. And then, of course, when Johnny wins in 1984, and I think the thing that blew my mind was, and I looked at the numbers, the New York City, Chicago, and Boston, through all those years, the number of women really didn't rise significantly until Oprah ran a marathon in 1992.
Yes.
And I think because she was not your typical, skinny mini, career runner who does a marathon, she was just an average woman who wanted to see if she could do this monumental task. And that's when numbers exploded with women's running. And it's
Mm.
weird because of the timeline that takes place relatively late in the book. I would say after maybe page 180 or something like that, well past the halfway point. But just following the timeline, that's where it happened, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah, that I thought that was. I have to say that surprised me as well because I thought for sure we were talking about Joni, and we all, what, every runner knows who she is, and um, I thought for sure that her number was going to get called there. And then when you said, when you dropped on us that, hey, listen, it didn't really, the
Yeah,
numbers didn't really change immediately there, but with Oprah they did, and but that Joni also enacted other social changes that you
yeah,
know that helped things move.
yeah.
But also, go on, Martin.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not saying that Joni was insignificant. She was clearly significant
Mm.
because her focus wasn't so much on the running boom, but she inspired women just to do fitness in general, which was monumental. And she's obviously still active.
She continues to, because she shows up at, a lot of the marathon trials. I saw her run in Boston. I saw her, and just, you know, just what she throws down still, is inspiring, no doubt.
Well, I was going to say what you just said about having people be fit in general. I think there probably was a whole category of people who are running but not doing like marathons, right? So that wasn't in the statistic. I actually I called my mom today because she and my dad used to run, and I was just wondering, what inspired you to start running in the 70s, right? She couldn't remember. she's 84, but it was definitely a thing. But my mom and my dad never ran more than a 10K. Like they did a lot of 5Ks, they did 10Ks. That's what they did. Like I asked her, did you ever think about running longer? She's like, no, that wasn't the thing that they did. So yeah.
Well, you think too, like the Susan Komen 5Ks for breast cancer came along.
Yes.
And like my wife never considered running a marathon, but she has got a wall of medals for half marathons, and in particular the Disneyland half marathons. And so those don't go into the numbers for the marathon, but that is a significant number of people that are brought into running at a very manageable distance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that definitely is the whole half marathon. So how many, so your book focuses primarily on what people would call the original boom outside of the age of pedestrianism or, other sustenance hunting or other running booms that we had out there. So how many booms would you say that there have been? Like, what would you consider the booms?
I say three, and the thing interesting about running is again, going back to that 1970 New York City marathon, and that wasn't the first marathon in the US, that was almost 100 years after the first Boston. But then, what's that? Go ahead.
Oh no, I want to make sure that because I forgot about that. And when I read this, I was like, oh, we definitely are going to talk about this. So before we forget, can you please tell us where the first marathon was run in the US? If you recall? And I'll throw what I remember.
So Boston was 1897, but I think the first one was, I want to say Yonkers or somewhere in New York City or something like that.
I think it's Yonkers, right? Is that right?
Oh, I thought that it started in Connecticut and ran into New York.
There was one of those.
An early, like I thought that there was a very early one. So I thought this, and I meant to go back, and I was reading it and it was late at night, and I just kind of lost it somewhere.
It finished, I think, at Columbus Circle. Everybody was so gaga about the marathon. But so to answer your question, though, I want to say three booms, but the term boom, I've never liked it. And so it kind of, because the first time it happened, it was truly an explosion. We went from a nation of non-runners to a world of, right now, they say something like 600 million people are runners. But the interesting thing is that running has gained participants. It has plateaued. It has gained more. It has plateaued. It's never gone backwards. There's never been a time where people stopped running. They might have done aerobics. They might have done, I've got a Peloton upstairs. I ride my Peloton all the time, but people never stopped running. And I think back to what you just said there. It'd be interesting to know what the 5K and the 10K numbers are throughout all this. But where we are now, 1.1 million people applied to run London this year, and only 60,000 people were chosen. So that's a lot of people. And the joy of all this is doing it as a community event. So they give people the chance to get a finisher's medal for doing it, just on Strava or something like that. But, the fun is being out there and suffering with the people around you, and you've got grown men wearing tutus. You've got all sorts of people just struggling to do it, and that commonality, that sense of community that people feel when they finish it. You don't see people finishing marathons with agony on their face. People are glowing. It's an amazing phenomenon. And so the question is not how far have we gone, how many booms there are. The question is, what does the future look like? Because London is talking about having back-to-back marathon days next year.
Yes. Yeah.
which will change the fabric of everything. And at first I thought that would make it not as special, but I think actually it's going to be one of those things that's going to help expand the sport even more because people know that they can get in and do that.
Yeah, I mean, I hear they're considering perhaps a good for age day, kind of like where you would age group qualifiers would run and then run the elites with the general population,
yeah,
on the other day, because like, how do you don't want to have an A race and a B race, right? So you want to have them both be special. But when there's that many people signing up, it's just, it is crazy,
I think it's a great idea. If the city can accommodate all the people, I think it's a great idea to get as many in as possible.
Yeah.
And cities have a huge motivation to do this because that's heads in beds with hotels. People are going to shows. People are going to restaurants. They're putting money into the tax coffers for all these big cities. And so if they, the more the merrier.
Yeah, absolutely. How much impact do you think the cost of equipment has had on running booms? You think that? Because I know everything's more expensive, but running shoes, I mean, granted, I understand that they're, the running shoes most definitely had something to do with, the recent events at London as far as the times, but the costs are just like, it used to be like, God, if a shoe was over $100, you'd be like, wow. And now it's like, you can't,
yeah,
they're, if you're racing, like there's justification to drop 350, 400.
Yeah.
But I mean, as a sport though, it's like still so the easiest, cheapest thing you can do, right? I was thinking about that when reading the book, just, I was just thinking about other fads like triathlon and became very popular, or whatever, cycling or whatever, but those things are just, the equipment is so expensive compared to running. To me, the $150 shoe is just like, the other costs of these other sports are just so much larger. And you can do it when you're on vacation. And I don't know. I mean, we all like running, so I don't need to convince anybody, but I just thinking about how easy it is compared to any other event. You don't need a team. You can get together with your friends. It's free. Like, you don't even have to do a race. You can just get together with your friends once a week, like the Ramblers do, or the Trail Mixers do, or, the Striders do.
Like Celeste with all her friends.
Okay. The idiots.
The idiots, right?
I don't know. It occurred to me just how awesome it is that it's out there and it's basically free, except for the shoes.
Well, the thing is, if you look, again, you compare it with cycling or triathlon in the cost of things. And somebody mentioned the other day, like, so if you're going to go to a big city marathon and you're going to fly from, let's say, Los Angeles, where I live, and you're going to go to London, even if you're not somebody who, can just, whip out the credit card and pay for everything, if you're doing a 6-month marathon build, if you put aside a little bit of money every week, you're going to be able to afford the hotel and the flight and the shoes are one-time thing. I don't know about you guys, but I don't train in super shoes. I train in these old gel Cayano structured cushioning shoes.
Your Asics Tigers.
Yeah, I've got a pair. So usually I have like tons of shoes lying around my desk here. I don't have any. I cleaned up recently, but the point is, I didn't used to wear a running watch, and now I really like my Garmin. But that's my big extravagance. If I step out the door, I've got a functional pair of shoes. I've got just a pair of shorts that probably could use a wash because I just hung them up to dry after the last run. I don't have matching stuff. I think you can buy as much or as little stuff as you like. When I watch people run, like I said, I'm close to a trailhead, but it's kind of part of the town that I live in. I love people when I watch people go out for just a very short run, but they've got the whole gel vest on and they've got, just the watch and all their clothes match. Look, if that's your thing, that's your thing. Seriously, because runners, we come in all shapes, sizes, and attitudes. But I always like it too. I mean, like I said before, if you know where the water fountains are, you don't need to have a gel vest. And if you're only running 5 miles, you don't even need a gel. It's just I think that there's the power of suggestion. A lot of people are selling these things, and people feel like to be a quote unquote real runner, they need to have all these gimmicks. I don't think
Got to
that's
dress the part, right?
I think if you put your shoes on and if you run around the block, even just one time, you're a runner. And and there is no delineation between what is or is not a runner, and equipment is certainly not that delineation.
That's so true. But before we leave the equipment world, what I want to say is since I started and I started running back in the first running boom, in the mid 70s, and um, there were very few running shoes out there, and you never saw non-runners in running shoes. It just
Yeah.
wasn't like popular footwear.
Mm.
I had a pair of Nike waffle trainers in the UCLA colors. That was my first pair of running shoes. They cost $20. I had to go to a sporting goods store to get them. Now, if you like walk anywhere, to a restaurant, to a shopping center, to any place, most of the people have running shoes on. And some of them
Yeah.
are expensive running shoes.
Mm.
I see a lot of people who are clearly not runners wearing on running shoes. I don't know where they're getting them from, but I know they're paying like $175 a pair. And it just seems like that is casual footwear. The other thing is nurses, so many of them wear Hokas
Oh
because
yeah. Oh,
Yes.
they're
yeah.
comfy,
Yeah.
right?
I think New York started the trend because I think people started commuting with running shoes
Mhm.
and not walking. You wouldn't take the subway in your heels. It was just like a lot to do. So I think people would, all of a sudden it was acceptable to have running shoes and a suit.
I think
You know.
working girls. I think
Yes.
Melanie Griffiths.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And she was on the ferry. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So let's talk about trail running a little bit more. So I see that ultra running seems like is in my estimation that it's still growing, but that the calendar is growing even faster, which is kind of a weird, it's almost like stagflation or something weird like that. Like it's growing so that even though there's more people running, there's less people at races lately, is what I'm noticing, except for the certain marquee, the big events somehow. Everybody still wants to run UTMB and Western States and things like that. But the other races, there's more choices for something that is not that top race.
Yeah, that's kind of we have a weird attitude in this sport, and I go back to track and field versus just regular age group running.
Mm-hmm.
The elite track and field runners are largely unknown to your average runner, which is unusual because if you're a baseball player, you know who Aaron Judge is, you know who Mike Trout is, and it's just common. Or if you're a basketball player, you know who the top basketball players are. But runners, I think, because running is such a singular sport, such a singular personal experience, that it's really more all about you than the elites. But if you look at the big city marathons, as you just mentioned recently, one of the reasons people do big city marathons is because the elites are there. They like this thing, like I was there when those guys broke 2 hours. It's just there's this thing because if you take the elites out of it, like you look at like the Los Angeles Marathon or the California International Marathon, let's say grandmas, without the elites there, people they still get the marathon experience, but they don't feel like it has the same cachet as if they were doing something where the top guns were there. And I think that might be happening in the ultra world because there's still a lot of mom and pop ultras. They're all over. There was just one in my backyard just this past weekend. But when you don't have your Killian Jornets showing up, a lot of people don't think it has the same heft, the same impact as a normal ultra. But also too, entry fees are just outrageous right now. Yeah, and I know there are uh, permissions that need to be arranged, and you need to pay the people for the food and the water along the way. But at the same time, doing a race is not cheap. So you can't just show up and put down. I remember when races were $2. So, and I remember when they got to $10, I was outraged And that is a pipe dream now. So if, we talk about the shoes getting expensive, but the entry fees are getting just as expensive. Just $350 to apply to New York. I mean, and more if you're from a foreign country.
Yeah, that is crazy. If you see, I'm wearing my training for New York 03 New York Marathon. This was the last year that it was the New York City Marathon. I think since then it's been like the ING Marathon or the I forget who.
TCS now or something like that.
TCS and all the sponsorship names, but this was when it was just the city, right? So it was just me and P. Diddy. So running that year.
I don't know if I ran 93 and I ran 2008 and I ran one more in between, but I'm not sure if it was 2003.
Yeah, that was my one and done in New York. Hopefully I'll get back there some year because that was my first marathon because I thought it was the only marathon in the world. And I suffered and, but I finished and, and it was great. So as far as trail marathons are going, I was thinking about this and one of the things that we're facing too, like 100-milers are struggling in a sense, some of the participation in the non-marquee events because they're getting double hit. Like not only are there more 100-mile races out there, now there's 200-mile races. And so where somebody might come in and also backyard ultras for that matter, it used to be that people, some people would go and do 3 100-mile races throughout the year, maybe 4 if you're, there's people who are doing that, but now maybe they go and they do like 1 200-miler, and then maybe, some other like a 50-miler or something like that. So it's like that and the, the backyard ultras have kind of, I think taken a toll on the 100-mile race distance. So.
Well, I think the thing with the ultra that people discount is it's not a 5K or a 10K where you could do it every weekend. And so if you saturate the market, the number of people who do it are going to go to certain races, and some of the the 50s or 100s are going to suffer because they're not as glamorous as some of the other ones. And again, I mean, who wants to run 100 miles every weekend? I mean, that's just crazy.
No. Yeah. I mean, Phred, but besides Phred, right?
Thanks, Phred.
Not every weekend. Come on.
Yeah. Well, how many have you run, Phred, at this point?
About 55.
About 55. Okay. That's a year's worth.
Yeah. There you go.
It'd be interesting to know the do not start rate of 100 to 200 milers, because obviously it's not just that you can't run them every other weekend, but you have to actually feel prepared to do them, right?
Yeah,
so
there's like a 16-week training.
Yeah, like you can't kind of consistent with what you just said. You just can't show up and do it. So, that might deter people from signing up or signing up but not going to it if they don't feel prepared.
There are so many options though out there, you guys. When I first started doing hundreds, like there were the original 4. There was one in Virginia, so it was really the original 5. But they're just in Umstead, so there just weren't that many. Now I think that they're like 150 on the calendar. So if you even though it's increasing
just 100-milers,
people,
just 100-milers,
just 100-milers, yeah. So even though the number of people is increasing, some of them are not getting enough people because there are just so many of them out there.
And then the other part that's also kicking in now is that as you know, a 200-miler is not like doing 2 100-milers. It's not like you're going to finish. Most people are not going to finish that in 48 hours, right?
No, they give you like 84 to 90 hours.
Yeah.
To finish those.
So let's get volunteers for our race, right? How does that work?
Yeah,
I think they pay people to crew to
and that's why the races are $1,500.
Yes.
Or whatever they are. So it's, I don't know. It's kind of, I just saw a post that was kind of discussing this, like the stresses of being a race director and trying to get volunteers, and then it's almost like you've kind of burned out your friends on the 200 miler, and then like to get them to come out for the 100 miler. I mean, like, it's one thing to come out for a weekend, but then a different, coming out for a week is another thing. Like people are taking time off, not everybody's like retired and, doing all that. So it's interesting. So there's going to be I think there's definitely some friction right now. I'm sensing a disturbance in the force. Mm-hmm. So
Marty, can I ask what your current running, thing is right now? You mentioned you go out in the trails. Do you have like ambitions for certain races, or what are your current like goals and plans for your own running?
I have to admit that because I competed heavily from, high school all the way through right around I turned 50. Right now, my competitive stuff is mostly from coaching. I mean, when I coach, I'm a very hands-on, very intensive coach. I mean, before this podcast, I literally raced home from practice. We had a really important track workout. So I'm kind of in that David Thoreau phase of my running where I just run because I love to run and I love to get out there and it clears my head. And I should say too that my wife, Callie, just passed away a couple months ago. So right now, the important thing is just to make sure I'm moving. So
right.
I just get out. I find a trail. I like it best when the O'Neill Park, which is my local place, is empty. No horses, no mountain bikes, no walkers, and I just kind of lose myself in it. And one of these days I'll find my way back to doing some kind of race, but now it's enough just to be out there, sorting things out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sorry for your loss. I mean, I think we heard today and kind of get a sense, of what she meant to you, just in a little bit. So,
yeah, she was great. She had a 4-year battle with cancer. It was a shock, but not a surprise. But like I said, I mean, I'll never forget the first time we did. She started really running, and we were going up this trail, and I promised her it was a flat trail. Turns out it was not as flat as I thought it was.
We've all been there.
And on top of that, she almost stepped on a rattlesnake without even knowing it. Oh. So we did not run together as much as we could have. So she had her own running partners, but it was a nice thing to share. It was a really good thing.
Very good, very good, and it's nice that you were able to share some, all those travels with her as well. So,
oh yeah, even right up till last summer, we took two Europe trips last summer, so it was great. I mean, there's something about people don't understand this. You can walk a city, but if you just jog a city, you see so much more, and you really feel more of the nuance of the city because you're not just a regular tourist. You're kind of, whenever you do something like running, you kind of absorb the fabric of everything around you, and so that makes it really fun.
Yeah. No, I agree. I always like, if I haven't run in a city, that I travel to, it's I don't feel like I've seen it in a lot of ways, because that's where you see. I think that's where you see stuff.
It's a great feeling to get up early in the morning, go out and like just check out the city that you're in now. Like, and
I know, it's the best.
Yeah, that's really nice.
And hope there's no pit bulls.
I've met some loose dogs in some cities. Yeah.
Oh,
go
ahead. No, you go.
I was just gonna say, it sounds like you're getting a lot of gratification from coaching. Like, what are your most fun and rewarding moments when you're a coach?
Well, it's the thing about it is when you coach so I coach the boys and the girls at the local high school, and we've had some great successes. I've got 7 state championships, and our girls were 3rd in the state last year. But it's really not. It's not the winning; it's the process of getting there, and so it's showing up at 2:30 and writing the workout on the board and hearing the guys and the girls complain about it, mostly the girls, and I'm 64 and they're teenagers, and there's no barrier between us. I mean, they give me so much grief, and I give them grief right in return. And it's a very honest dialogue, and I make sure to explain the workout to them every day, why we're doing what we're doing, where it fits into the season, why we're doing thresh or we're doing VO2 or we're doing something at mile pace. And so they learn about running even during the process of just being an athlete. And there's just a lot of love there. I mean, it's really it's the best part of my day, just getting out there. It's 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon with a bunch of kids who are not always motivated to run, but they do the job, and it's super fun.
And in 10 years, they're all going to be thinking, oh my God, that was my most valuable time, right?
Yeah, I learned more there.
Or 5 years or 2 years,
Yep.
but
I had one of my former runners. He went on to run at UCLA and Georgetown, but out of the blue, he qualified for Boston with a 2:36 at LA last year, and he went 2:21 last week at Boston. I mean,
Nice.
wow.
and so I remember when he was a freshman and he was, 4.5 feet tall and he couldn't break 5 minutes for the mile. Now he's stringing together, 26 miles at 4:50 pace. So
Amazing.
Great.
totally cool.
But, I think they'll all feel like I learned in either cross country or track or something. I learned that you can prepare for something, you can plan for something, you can work on something, you can get results from that something, and it translates to everything in your life, right?
We have that talk a lot. You learn.
Right.
I keep telling them, like, you're going to have a tough job, a tough marriage. You're going to hit a rough patch in your life, but you're learning perseverance. You're learning endurance. You're learning stick-to-itiveness. You're learning consistency, because the people that show up every day are the ones who get fast,
Yep.
and
Yep.
the ones who kind of, take it easy, maybe show up 2 or 3 times a week. They eventually quit because they're not getting the full benefit of the training.
Right. They don't see the results either because they're not putting the effort in,
Oh,
right?
and
Yeah.
their friends get faster than them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I would imagine, I know that my running coach had this effect on me, and I ran for the total of one season in 6th grade, like cross country. That's what I did, one season. But when I was 38 years old and I was overweight, having a midlife crisis, like, I got to get my shit together. I knew that I was a runner because Mr. Bree taught me how to run when I was in 6th grade. So I went back to that, and it felt natural immediately, just because I could hear his voice, and I knew what to do. Lots of, obviously you talk about a lot of different runners in the book. Would you say that Frank Shorter had the greatest impact on you personally, or was there another one that you would pick out, like, not on the boom, but for you personally, to get you running?
Oh, without a doubt.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So, my story is, so when Shorter won that marathon, I went to my high school library, my elementary school library of 6th grade. And the only book they had on running was the Jim Ryan story, which I checked out, read it, and returned. And then I realized I needed to read it again. So I literally stole it for the rest of the school year. And I read it like 5 times. But I love Jim Ryan. I know Jim Ryan. He's a Facebook friend. His wife is great. But there was something about Jim Ryan that he seemed like a different kind of being, but Pre comes in, he's got the porn star mustache, he's got that mop of hair, he's got that rebel attitude, he's the James Dean of distance running. And when you're a nerdy 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, that speaks to you. And because he was the guy who made running cool. And, I had his poster next to my bed, and I was, every time he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, I saved the magazine. I read every article about him. I knew everything he did. And I was just so absorbed in it. So I remember I used to deliver the San Francisco Chronicle when I was 14 years old. The old school way where you get on your bike and you have a bag of newspapers, and you throw the newspaper onto the porch. And then I would get home and read the paper, and I opened the paper one morning, and I think it was even my birthday, which is June 1st, and it was talking about how Pre had died. And I was just devastated. I was just, it was just, it was the first time I think I'd really experienced death. And it was really, really weird thing. And for a while there, I thought, well, I'll replace him as my idol with Frank Shorter. And Shorter's just a different cat. I mean, he's really
Sure.
great runner. His gait is flawless, shoulders back, hips forward, midfoot, landing. But he didn't have that swagger of Pre, and I just never
Mm.
really connected. So I think to this day, Nike's done its bit to make sure that Pre gets remembered, but to this day, high school kids still wear Prefontaine t-shirts.
Hmm.
People say they want to race like Pre, which means you race right up front, balls to the wall. You dare anybody to come with you. And the fact that a modern high school runner knows full well the story of a guy who died 50 years ago, even more so than people like Grant Fisher and Yard the Goose, Walker, is pretty extraordinary. And I think Nike has a lot to do with that, but also I think the way he ran had a lot to do with it. So I always thought he was the coolest.
And he had some great quotes, right? He had great quotes.
Yeah.
Like I'm just reading what, everybody knows about the to give anything less than your best is a sacrifice the gift. But the one that I was trying to find was, no matter how hard you run, somebody will run harder. No matter how hard you want it, somebody will want it more. I am somebody. That's a great quote.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
He was something. He was something.
Yeah. I think, you know what? He's kind of like the guy that all of us are in our heads when we have our shit together. When we're out there running and everything's clicking, we're like, yeah, come on. Anybody, you know what? Like where you finish the race and you're like, darn it, the finish line is in front of me, like I felt like I could have taken a lot more scalps,
I like the more scalps thing. I don't like the idea of the finish line coming too soon.
Yeah, that's true.
Are there any runners in recent times who you think rival the personality or have the potential to rival the personality? Or
they do. Yeah. We don't do enough to market the elite runner anywhere. I mean, Europe is better than we are, but USA Track and Field, I'm on the USA Track and Field Foundation, which is not part of USA Track and Field, which I think does just a horrible job of promoting our sport. And by our sport, I don't just mean track and field. I mean cross country. I mean, all the endurance events. They do the marathon championships too. I just feel like we've lost our way with that. There are great runners out there. Jakob Ingebrigtsen from Arabia. There's Josh Kerr. There's
Cole Hocker.
Yeah, and Kerr and Ingebrigtsen don't seem to love each other, right? So
no, they don't.
That's great.
That should be drama.
Oh my God, that is so good.
Yeah.
Right. That, and just even like Cole Hocker gives like some of those finishes that he's pulled off.
Oh yeah, when he snuck in and won that medal.
My gosh, that's like Dave Waddle. That's like 1964, right? I mean, it Billy Mills. It's like
Billy Mills,
it's just like he is one that, like, when you're in the race and you see it in your mind and you make it happen. He seems to have had that kind of a finish.
Did any of you see the documentary or the series Sprint, or is it called Sprint, or I can't remember, the one about the shorter distances? Anybody? I forget the name of it, but it featured Noah Lyles, Gabby Thomas, and it was maybe a couple of seasons. But I feel like they should have that about like middle distance, longer distance runners. It felt very like competitive-y, like trash talking kind of, which is, I guess, creates drama and like is good for shows. But
it's weird though. The longer the distance, the more people hug, I think.
Right? No, that's true. I think it's a nice feature, but
yeah, like if you're running 100, you're running 100 meters, like you're like showing Pokemon cards, and the live streams of these. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Just Lyles and somebody else really didn't like each other at the last one.
No, he did. It's very like cat and fighting.
You disrespected me. That kind of stuff. They were definitely not happy with each other.
But I think more people are watching like the live streams of these longer events. So that's a plus and optimistic perhaps for the future.
Yeah, I still don't know why they can't show a marathon. Like I was watching the commentary even for London, right? And the announcers, I'm not going to say whether they did a good job or a bad job, but he's saying like he's got to be coming up to the 800-meter mark soon. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're announcing this race and you don't know that finish by heart? Like I watch a Manchester road race every year, and I'm like, the announcers every single year, if I'm not there and I'm watching it on TV, I'm screaming at the TV because I know the course better than the announcer does. And I'm like, no, they're not at the King of the Hill yet. They're not at that point yet. They're not by Highland Market. Come on, guys. Like learn, I don't know.
Well, I think you bring up a good point though, because a lot of announcers who are hired to do a major marathon for television don't know the sport and they don't know the course. For instance, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, the bike race was held the same day as London. And I was watching that, and the guys who were commentating had both competed professionally, so they knew every aspect of that course. They go, oh, this climb is coming up, and it's going to do this and this and this. You don't hear that with major marathon things. It seems like they sometimes hire the local sports announcer who thinks he's a play-by-play guy, or maybe somebody who calls baseball and football but doesn't know. It's a different thing.
Yeah, Caragoucher accepted.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I think she is absolute top shelf, and which brings us as a natural segue to somebody who wrote, just the list of people who wrote the forward of your book. Like it's like a who's who in running. Everyone starting out with Des to like Bill Rogers and Hirsch, and like just really an amazing collection of recommendations on that. But you mentioned Des a couple times also in your epilogue. What can you tell us about Des and her impacts these days?
Well, you could say that the third running, the current running boom, which COVID played a large part in it because running was pretty much all you could do. I think that there was a little bit of, I think that when she won in Boston in 2018, it was such an everyman moment, this lone woman battling the elements, running all by herself in the rain and the wind. And, she looks so fragile because she's so small, but meanwhile, belying the fact that she's completely, strong and tough. I think a lot of people respond to that, and it got even better when she did that thing like that bourbon is whiskey, Larry comment,
yes,
which is it was instant running lore because when we think of elite marathoners, we think of people who live a very monastic lifestyle, and she loves her bourbon, she loves her coffee, she's found that balance, and I think people related to that, and I think there was an inspirational moment in that, but Des her agent used to be a good friend of mine, Josh Cox. And so there was a time I hadn't run a marathon since 2008. And there was a time a few years ago where I was going to try to run Boston. And she gave me a training plan. It was really, really cool. And then I got hurt and couldn't do it. And it was just my fault. I had this great workout, then immediately jumped in the car and drove 3 hours in traffic to Palm Springs. And my paraformist did all sorts of bad things to me, and I felt kind of sheepish about it, but very kind, and she's very funny, and she was really warm about doing a blurb for the book. Actually, everybody was, everybody from Dina Castor to all these heroes of mine. People are reading the book, and Dina sent me the nicest message about how much she enjoyed it, and it was kind of neat to reach out to all these people and just say, hey, I've written a book about this sport that, that you have lived your whole life. And, please write something. And everybody loved it. Nobody wrote that it's a piece of shit. Everybody wrote like,
that would be a funny review.
I give it 2 stars. No, that is funny. That is funny. Yeah. I mean, you're right. And a lot of the names that you mentioned, they are the ones that I've met, at least, like certainly Joni and Dina and as well as Des, they've all been very, very nice. Most of them, a lot of times I've had my kids there, runners across the board, like even Ryan Hall before he was Ryan Hall. He had just won New Haven road race and I didn't know who he was, and, saw him at the finish line and talked to him with my son, and he wanted to hear more about my race, and he won the thing, and then 2 weeks, a month later, he won, he broke the record, was the first to go under an hour for the half. So.
Oh yeah. He's a good story. I'm somewhere in my garage. I've got a signed singlet of his from when he ran Boston. I think the 2:04:05 at Boston, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a photo of that with the singlet.
Yeah.
Runners are nice people. You don't meet many arrogant runners.
Yeah. Present company excluded.
Can I ask?
Right? Whoops.
What do you think about this trend of sort of, some elite road runners turning to trail, like Molly Seidel and Des?
Yeah.
Like, do you think that reflects, I don't know if negatively is the right word, on road running, or is it a natural transition with age, or how would you explain this happening? And it's not happening for everybody. I mean, some people don't do that, but some people do. Like, have you thought about that? Or, I'm sure you have. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's more to do with age. Molly Seidel is not that old, but she's frequently injured. So, the probably aren't the best place for her. But, Des is getting to a point where she's not a competitive, elite female marathoner. But at the same time, she still makes seven figures. So she wants to keep that. And she's got a persona. So she wants to keep that going. And the minute she leaves the sport, it's going to kind of go, it'll be a matter of time before people just, don't know who Des is anymore. But, by doing Marathon des Sables, by running Boston, then London, and really being the kind of person who goes out there and just has a good time doing it, she's getting a whole new persona above and beyond the elite athlete.
Right.
And I feel like, too, if you put elite road racers on the trails, the trail runners are only going to get faster too. A lot of people went to the trails because, maybe they weren't fast enough for the roads, or they just like the solitude of the trails. But if you're going to start raising the stakes as people race on the trails, your average trail runner is going to get a little bit sharper.
Yeah, hands down, like a fast road runner on most courses is going to be a fast, an elite road runner is going to be an elite trail runner for the most part.
Walmsley doing, like, wasn't he a fast steeplechaser before he started doing trails? So, and then he wins Western States a few times, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of steeple guys out there. So
yeah.
I was a steeple guy. I love the steeple.
Wow. Okay.
The steeple is cross country on the track, is what it is. So,
it really is. That's like, and just like having lead legs and then having to jump something that is not going to care if you smack your
it's not
right
giving
it.
It's not giving.
It's not even going to blink. It's just going to laugh at you.
It's a horrible feeling.
I've seen some unfortunate results late in the steeple people.
Yeah.
Wow. So do you think that to kind of add on to Anna's thought there, I'm thinking that Des has the potential to make another, maybe it won't be a boom, but at least a sub boom, because there are many, she is just so cool. She's like the epitome of, you love her as an underdog road runner, and then she's already like rock and roll or punk rock or whatever that is, non-traditional, Hanson Brooks, like she's already like gonna be like, it's like she's made for trail running. So to see her go to that, I bet she pulls some people who are road runners over to say, you know what, I'm going to do this because Des does it. A good idea.
Yeah. They hear it on the podcast.
And plus she was on Cultra. So now I'm definitely going to do it.
I was thinking of her podcast, Art, but yeah, Cultra, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
If she starts making a good living off of trail running, and she's still not the best. I mean, what was she, third at? She was third at Marathon des Sables. I mean,
but that's a quirky kind of race, right?
But I think if she shows that there's a revenue stream within trail running, above and beyond, what people make as a marathon, I mean, on the roads, I think you'll see people seeing that as the natural progression when their road running career comes to an end.
Mm. Yeah, it's strange. Like we always talk about or battle with um the idea of whether we want something to be popular or not, right? Like is more are more people like we want the sport to grow or do we want the sport to grow, you know? Like or are we kind of like, you know, I don't know. I always
A lot of people want both, or they want it to
yeah,
be like yeah, we're the OG ultra runners, and this sport's grown so much, but I still want to be able to get into all the races I want to be in. I don't want it to be too crowded.
that's right. I want to be just the last one allowed to sign in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
May I ask
We
a
talk
question
about the
about
Tour de France, or we're not there yet.
Oh, we can talk about the tour. Yeah, that sounds good. I have another question, but I'll wait. I'd love to hear about the tour de France.
Honestly, Marty, I'm a huge tour fan, and I have been since the 90s. I go back to when the Festina team blew up in 1998 because like they were all dirty. But when you were, I mean, my understanding is you covered them the tour pretty intensely from 99 through 2008. Is that right?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it was that long, but yeah, it was that long.
I
It
mean,
was
and that's Lance Armstrong time,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. So the first year I covered the tour was '99, and the story behind that was I was doing a story. I wasn't supposed to be covering the tour. I was covering Greg LeMond, the American champion,
Mhm.
a series of like these bicycle tours. Like you would fly in, they would put you up these good hotels, they give you some bikes, you could ride along with the tour, kind of before or after.
Yeah, they still have those things, right?
Yeah,
Like Velo shop and stuff like
yeah,
that. Right?
yeah. The guy
Yeah,
who runs Willow Shop is a good friend of mine.
yeah.
And um, so I was with Lamont, and when we got to the start of the stage, I think it was the Sestriere stage. That's when Lance put yellow back on that year. Um, he didn't have a press pass, which you need at the tour to go anywhere. But because he was Lance Greg LeMond, he literally walked right past the gendarmes, and he told me, "Come with me." And so next thing we knew, we found ourselves at the little trailer that Lance was using to strategize the morning before the race. So inside were, Tyler Hamilton, Lance, George Hincapie. I
Mm.
was not allowed to come inside, but Greg went inside. So I sat outside there, and leaning against that little trailer was the bike Lance would ride that day. And so
Mm.
I kind of put a finger on the seat. I didn't want to like look proprietary, touch it. Um, but that led, but then I ended up covering the tour all those other years. And the tour is great because it's not just about the bike race, it's about the history and the beautiful scenery and, the wine and the food and just a really fun but frantic 21 days in July. But with the land stuff, we all knew that, at first I was in disbelief that Lance would cheat, and the rationale became, well, everybody else is doing it, so why shouldn't we do it too? Um, but then as you would see the wolf packs of American men who would come over to follow the tour just to see Lance and the popularity of it, I realized after a while that if he was ever busted for doping, it would be uh, myth shattering, dream shattering, just a horrible, horrible thing for endurance sports. And so when it happened, I kind of I didn't stop following the tour, but I just kind of looked away because I saw so many majestic moments, so many really gutsy moments, up close, like literally right there.
Mm.
And
Oh, I can still remember them. There were so many like iconic moments involving Lance when
yeah,
Oh
when
my
that
gosh.
lady's handbag broke
yes,
Yes.
his handlebar and he went down and then he caught Ulrich and
yep,
still won
Yeah.
that stage.
He
Like
caught the big
when
man.
when he was going downhill with Beloki and Beloki
oh,
like crashed and then Lance like went overland and
yeah,
around
yeah.
the
But look, snapped his femur.
Oh,
that
and
day.
he cut through the he took the switchback. He cut the
Yeah,
switchback.
basically. Yeah, he cut the switchback and the race
Like a Jornay
officials had to
move.
be like, yeah, that was okay because you were kind of knocked off the course.
And it didn't give him an advantage, they said.
Yeah. It
Oh, and
didn't.
just even the fact that after he wiped out that Ulrich waited up for him, right? Or stopped.
Yeah, then they duked it out going up that hill.
Yeah, it just showed such the
It's an
whole thing
amazing
just
sport.
showed such class and that's but I felt the same way. Like I didn't want to believe that was happening. And then
I had my yellow wristband.
oh yeah,
You
you
did.
and all of America.
We all did, right? And then it was
That's
like,
right.
oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Looking back on that, one of my thoughts was if he had just retired with 5 victories and never come back, maybe everything would have been okay. It was like he just couldn't let go.
You couldn't let go because it was that crash when they had the B sample. And I think that was 2008. It was unfortunate, but if you listen to his podcast, he's really done the work. He's been to therapy. He's, been honest with his family about all this stuff. And I know at the end of the day, I still love the sport of cycling. So, and the weird thing is too, because of all these advances and how we hydrate and how we, eat in technology, today's cyclists are light years beyond where Lance was without doping because they have these
Sodium bike.
Yeah, all this they have all these things to
just hearing their I think that the announcers have done such a great role in the other guy the team there. Those guys have done such a great job and Christian
Van de Velde.
Yeah, Van de Velde.
Phil's still hanging in there, although he makes a lot of errors. He's getting a little older.
He's got the big beard now too. It's unusual.
But they talk about their feed plan now, like say, oh yeah, we're planning on 110 grams of carbs per hour. But then, oh wait, if it's a harder day, we're going to go a little more. If it's a little less, we're doing this, and then you wonder like what else they're doing, like the ketones and the
doing that.
I feel like Pogača is like an F1 race car now. They have him dialed into everything.
Because Vindigo was the one that you thought would be the one who was going to be that guy. But like Pogača this year, even I think Lance even made some kind of a comment like he shouldn't have gone and won that stage, when he kind of rode ahead. He I forget who he was, it one of those guys he rode down and he said, he did too much here. They're going to catch him, like as if to imply that, he wasn't exactly.
He was kind of fried by the end of the race last summer.
He was. But he's getting smarter. I mean, Pogačar is just a generational talent. That's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. It is. But
it's the doping in the late 90s, early 2000s really was unfortunate, but everybody, I think, was doing it, right?
Everybody was doing it.
So I jumped off too. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I think Floyd, when he won the year after Lance, did his retirement before he unretired, I think Floyd just thought like, this is what everybody does and it's okay. Right. Yeah. And then when they were like, no, dude, you just got caught. He was like, what now? I like always trained. Right?
But that's not the deal.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I did have like one last kind of question, and then if you guys had any other things to talk about, I wanted to ask you about books certainly played a big role in the booms and in influencing people and things like that. Now I'm sure, in our running realm, like Dean Karnazes, Phred Marolo, Christopher McDougall, all the greats, John L. Parker, each one of those, as well as Sheehan, Dr. George Sheehan, he had a big impact. So I wondered if you read any of those, and if any of those authors, or what authors you might have read that impacted how you thought about running.
I don't know. I like Kenny Moore's book about Bowerman, which was great. Never, I never really got the McDougall thing because it felt like just a big outside magazine article to me. It wasn't really, it felt like somebody out from outside the sport was coming in and telling us how to reinvent the sport, which I didn't really enjoy. I think Once a Runner is a classic that every runner should read because
That
it
is
is
great. It's a great book. Yeah.
such an amazing book. Um, I don't know, to tell you the truth, uh, I don't read a lot of running literature, and here's why. It's not because I'm above it, but usually most of it's either how-to or personal memoir, and both are very valid. But I tend to like to read things that are more stories. I don't like to read things that are just kind of, know, just here's my moment, or here's couch to 5K. They don't interest me as much, but I will say this. I think Once a Runner still is the gold standard, but I still think even though I've written a running book just now, The Long Run, I still think that the sport is ripe for a really great running book that transcends everything, and I think that's soon to come, in whether it's fiction or nonfiction.
Wow.
By the way, you guys are young because, the first running book that I ever came across when I was like, I don't know, in middle school or something was Ken Cooper's aerobics,
Aerobics. Yeah.
right? It was like the first, it like came down. I was like, oh my God, you can like run and then keep going.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
they talked about that in my high school gym. My high school gym teacher mentioned that to us. I talked about like running, and I think he said like 20 minutes or something at not a hard pace, or 20 to 30 minutes, and getting benefits and all this stuff.
Yeah, and like until I saw that, it just never occurred to me that you could slow down and keep going. I thought of running as like you run until you have to stop and walk.
And
That was
throw
it.
up. Yes. Like the height running to first base.
Yes, basically. Or like
That's
running
running.
after a fly ball in the outfield or something, then you're like,
That's the book.
that's it.
No, we had aerobics in our house. I remember that's why my dad started running when I was 5 or 6 years old. He bought aerobics, and that was the first big running book after Bowerman's jogging book, but it had more substance to it because it was more scientific.
Right.
And that was a big deal back then. That was a real big deal.
Mm. Yeah, I think I got, when I started running, there was the complete book of running.
Yep.
Read
Yeah.
that cover to cover, and
And Fix's
know.
running book.
yeah.
Right? That's just running, I think.
And
right?
the one book that everybody has, but nobody's ever read the whole thing ever, is The Lore of Running, right?
I've got it right here.
No, I do. I'm sure I do somewhere over here too.
And
I also have Once a Runner and again the Carthage right over there too.
yeah. So, one time I was probably 91. I was at the LA Marathon Expo, and George Sheehan was in some booth. I think it was the Runner's World booth or something. And he was just standing there waiting for someone to come talk to him. And people kept walking by not knowing who he was. And I stopped and I stared at him, and I walked over, and I just couldn't believe it was him. I said, "Are you George Sheehan?" He goes, "I am." And that was when I was really just kind of starting to write. And he talked to me for an hour. And I finally left because I thought I was bugging him. But nobody else came to, take me away. And it was really, really, what a nice guy.
Yeah, I have to say that, and it's been a long time since I read Running and Being, but when I did read it, like, he mentioned a couple things that just told me that he was it's almost like Once a Runner, some of his thought processes, like the idea that, like, he remembers running a safe marathon and passing one of his friends who was walking in the end, and feeling such shame for himself for not going out too hard because he ran too conservative of a race, and that he punked out, and that, like, the glory of a painful death at the end of a marathon was just something to be strived for, because you never know when it's going to be, you're not going to get true greatness by playing it safe, and that, like, to really risk, he felt like he sacrificed the gift. And
I like that.
so many of the things that he wrote, like you know, it's kind of what I took that to be gospel, you know, because I think his was one of the first books that I read, just an old, dry, brutal copy of it, you know.
I was going to say, have you read What I Talk About When I Talk About Running? Because that's sort of a writer talking about running, which I really enjoyed. Anybody read that?
You know, I've seen that book so many places, and it's just one of the things, like one of these days I'm going to get around to that.
It's not very long, so it won't take you very long. Yeah.
And, you know, he's a well-known writer too, so
Yeah.
it would be fun to read that.
I like kind of like a tell-all writing book. The one book that I actually listened to it on audiobook was Kara Goucher's memoir and about Nike. I mean, that was really riveting. I just couldn't wait to get in the car or take a walk or whatever I was doing when I was listening to it. So yeah.
I think that's the book that got her the commentating job. I think that gave her a profile.
Yeah, and she read it herself too, and she did an excellent job, especially talking about these really like hurtful, terrible topics that affected her personally. It was quite impressive. I thought it was great.
Yeah, she pulled no punches in that. So.
I don't think Alberto's inviting her to Thanksgiving dinner.
No, I read Alberto's book before that came out, just before that.
Was it called like I Didn't Do It?
Pretty much. It did say at the end, like, I don't know why people are saying stuff about me, but you know, it's not true.
If you read anything else about me, here's some bad stuff, it ain't true.
Yeah. But he grew up in Manchester, so that doesn't matter, but go ahead.
Can I ask a kind of unrelated question for Martin? I'm curious what you think. So, you know, they just in London under 2 hours, right? Then I look at the world record mile time and I'm thinking like, I mean, a 4:33 pace marathon is just incomprehensible to me, as is like the world record in the mile, but these times are not that far apart. I mean, so where can we, how fast can we go? What do you think? No,
I think, you know, the mile record's old, and there are rumors that, you know, it took place during the doping era, but, you know, but people are nibbling around the edge of it. And I think it's the same with the 2 hour marathon. It's like the Bannister effect. You know, once Roger Bannister broke 4 minutes, all of a sudden everybody broke 4 minutes. And I think when somebody breaks that mile record at 3:42, it's going to drop at least another 5 or 6 seconds within a year or two, because the people are just running too fast right now. The mile's a different thing because you're in a completely different lactate zone, but at the same time, with all the technology we have, someone's going to find a way.
But I mean, I guess I'm thinking more of the marathon.
Oh, the marathon. No,
3:42 and 4:33. It's like the same thing, which I know it's not. I know it's not the same thing. But I mean, I'm like, how can that be the marathon minute mile? How can that be the mile? Maybe that's me as just a mediocre like runner talking, but I'm just wondering, like, what's the fastest pace that you can run a marathon if we're at 4:33?
Always slightly faster than we've done it. That's what it's always been. Right?
Okay.
The only thing that I don't know, Marty, and I should let you answer it because I'm just some hack over here. But the only thing that I've heard is that like you have to look at like each of the, like if you say that aside from fueling and nutrition, which is nutrition, hydration, and training, what effects those are, which are kind of unknown, right? I mean, they're each going to be contributors, but the shoes, if you concentrate just on the shoes, those they're able to, I think, test the effectiveness of them so that, you know, you look in each iteration, you know, the Nike 4%, then, then Puma, and then Adidas, and each are, you know, claiming percentage gains over the next. I don't think that is drastically shortening. Like, it's not looking like, if you plot out that trend, it's not like it's, you know, it's cut down a little bit, but you know,
they have like standards, right? Like how much midsole you can have and stuff. They measure the shoes. It's all gotta pass. But those were Adidas shoes, I think, that they wore, right?
Yeah, and the woman too. So the two winners plus the second place,
yes,
all wore Adidas. And one thing a lot of people don't look at is that because these shoes have a greater cushioning effect, people can train at a higher level for longer without breaking down. So, for instance, the guy who won in London, they said his training was only 150 miles a week. So, about that. So,
Jeez.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean that, but then at some point you get down to a big thing on these has been cutting weight, right? On the shoes. That's the other part. And that part of it it's gotten ridiculous on how light, how
yeah.
light those shoes actually are. So I don't know how much, like, lifting them, even just going to the shoe. I've been injured for, a couple months. I'm just on the comeback. So going into a shoe store, I kind of hadn't been in 6 months. And I went in there and I didn't recognize the wall, because the shoes look like they're from Mars. So,
Yeah.
all super
There's a lot of
light.
stack height in ultra shoes now, right? Like the shoes
Yeah.
they're trying to get you to run ultras in.
I remember the first time I saw Hoka, I thought, like, you got to be freaking kidding me. No,
Clown
we're
shoes.
minimalist people here. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't want to smash our knees up. And then saw those and said, oh, that trend will never last.
And then it just got bigger, right?
I know it did. Those weren't even that.
They weren't the biggest shoes yet.
No, not even close. Not even close. All right. So do you guys have any closing? They're both attorneys. So Martin, just so you know, I should have probably disclosed that earlier, but
I want to let you guys know that they allow 1 hour per attorney for closing arguments. So
Wow.
I don't know anything about. I don't do litigation, so
Okay.
I'll trust
That's
Fred on that.
plausible deniability. Okay. You
Yeah,
guys
I'm happy
right?
to. Yeah, I found the book super entertaining, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with others. So, thank you for writing it. I would love to hear about your next project, but I'll just follow you so that I'll know what the next project is.
Thanks. And it was really nice talking to you. Getting some
thanks
nice-
for the book.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really amazing. I've not finished it yet because Art was going to send me a copy and he never did. But I didn't know that Pheidippides was just a myth. I thought it was like a mythologized dude who actually did that run. So I read that part and I was like, holy crap, okay, learned something today, So
Good. Yeah, I really enjoyed doing the deep dive on that because I always took it for granted that was the truth, and there
me too, right?
are iterations of that story.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
asked
well-
Santa Claus said it's true. So
Yeah, I know.
I'm
I was
going
like,
with
I was a little shocked by it, but my other closing thing that I just want to say, which you started the show with this, Art, but I wanted to thank you and Becky and Celeste and Bill Odendahl, Tony B, JJ Duran, 2N Ben, and all the other Bill
Elena.
Odendahl's daughter, Christina,
Yeah.
Mike Melton. All these people were out there doing a great job.
Simon C. Edgett,
Oh yeah, Simon C. Edgett.
Gandalf.
Oh yeah, Gandalf was there
Ultra
right till the
Walker.
bitter end. Yeah,
Yeah, everybody who came out to the aid station, and Elena and Chris, or Alana. I don't know if it's Elena or Alana. Boy.
okay.
But you know what? Whatever it is, I'm saying both at the same time.
Elena Alana.
2 for 1. But
Chris
I got to
Grace.
tell you, Fred, she was like, she and Becky, she was like a mix of Celeste and Becky, if you can imagine that.
Oh my God.
She was so inappropriate. I loved it. She was just, she fit right in there the whole time. It was great. So, and watched her boyfriend Chris finish the 50K after DNF last year. So it was a great day all around.
Yeah,
So.
it was super. And to my sister who
Yeah.
50K for second year in a row, 75 years old. Not,
Amazing, awesome.
And she just got out of the hospital last week because she got an infected cat bite.
As one does.
As one does, if your cat bites you, but so it was a great day on Sunday, and I appreciate all the volunteers because I was just hanging around giving out medals, but a lot of people did a lot more than I did.
Mm.
All of Celeste's friends, all the idiots were there. So
Yeah. Yeah. And Yeah, and even the Burks, we were trading bananas back and forth, message
I saw
bananas to them.
There was a lot of trash talk between
it was so much trash talk. It was wonderful.
That's good.
It was wonderful. So, and also want to thank all of our Patreons out there. Thank you guys. As you know, we have no sponsors here on purpose, so that we can say whatever we want about whoever we want. And so then there's that. But most of all, I want to thank Marty Dugard for coming out and joining us. And thanks for such an entertaining book to read and your time tonight. Really appreciate some really great stories, getting arrested and getting thrown in jail. We love that shit. That's awesome. So thank you very much.
In Tanzania, are not just arrested and thrown in jail, in Tanzania.
Yeah.
At gunpoint. At
gunpoint, yeah.
Yeah.
Things went down there in Tanzania.
I know. My gosh. So to all of our listeners, if you made it this far, of course, seek professional help. And we will see you all in a mile
and a half.
Mile and a half.
All right. Excellent.
That was super fun. Thanks for having
me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty. This was a real privilege. That was, I think, I don't know how Phred feels about it, but like for me to have somebody to talk to about this, just the 72 Olympics, like, and that capturing that whole time was like, those were like the,
and the arc of running since then it's really kind of fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like one of the things
we didn't get to is that I was so happy to see Frank Schroeder win that marathon, but I didn't feel like running took off right then in the country until like around the time that Bill Rogers won the Boston Marathon. Like the mid 70s is when I really felt like a lot more people were taking up running.
So when you read the book, that's the conclusion I come to as well. Rogers in 75, then the 5 boroughs in 76, 50th, was it 200th anniversary of America. So,
yeah.
Anyway, well, thanks for having me on. Des is right. You guys are tough. It's like, I need a beer.
I'm sorry. I wish I could send this to you.
Yeah, if only just hand it through.
Tell me the name of it again.
Hetty Topper.
Hetty Topper. I will look for it.
But you have Stone. What is it called? Stone.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's really good beer. You're okay. You're doing all right.
If you're up, if you were up in the North Bay, but you're near LA. But if you're up in the North Bay, they have the Russian River Brewery that has
Pliny the Elder.
Pliny the Elder, right?
Yeah.
That's legendary as well.
Wow.
That's in my fridge right now.
Jeez.
So, all right, guys. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marty. Take care.
Bye.
Yep. Okay. Bye now.
Bye.
Hey, guys.
I went to the bathroom. That's when I shut my video down. My wife said, "How is it?" And I said, "This guy's great. It's going to be a really good episode."
Yeah.
That's how I felt about it.
Oh, good. Yeah.
No, it was really.
They're not all. They can be perfectly nice people, and it just doesn't come alive. But
true.
This guy knows his topic. He could talk about anything.
Yes.
And it was really good.
Yeah. No, that was good. I was, you know what, he was I think I was not sure until I read his book, but once I read his book, I was like, anybody who can write like this has got to be fun to talk to, right? Like,
I kind of saved I didn't start reading this until like kind of last minute, but I knew as soon as I started reading it that I could finish it really quickly.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like,
this
is not a problem. Like, I'm just going to,
Yeah. No, it's I liked it too, because I kind of knew the plot. Like I knew where it was going for the most part.
Where it was going.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Like, and then everybody stopped running. Wait, what? So,
yeah. It's funny. I mean, sorry. I know we're not in the podcast anymore, but
Oh, maybe we are though.
It made me think of in 1996, I was working in downtown Boston, and I would go to like the marathon when I was in Boston, working there because my office was right in Park Place, and that was when Uda Pepig won. Do you guys like
Uda
that?
Pepig,
Was like
yeah.
that was like a really momentous moment for me, just as a spectator. I don't know if you recall, but like. She went to like the bathroom and I was
like, trying to think of who that was.
Yeah,
she did that often, right?
And she won, and it was like, who cares? You know what I mean? It was like this, like, who cares that all these like things are coming out of her?
Yeah.
But
Greta
anyway,
Waitz used to do that
but
in New York too. Greta Waitz had her
maybe,
Greta Waitz
yeah.
moments.
And I do remember Greta Waitz. Like I definitely that was like being. I grew up on Long Island, so like,
is that how it's pronounced?
Waitz, yeah.
Yeah.
I was calling her Waitz.
Well, you can say Waitz if you want, but you know.
Oh my gosh.
She could call you Biram if she wanted to too.
She could. Oh, it's like Vibram.
Vibram.
Biram. So Anna, you're running Seven Sisters?
Yeah, I guess I am.
Look at that. Is that this weekend?
Yes, it is. And it's interesting when we were talking about like crowds and stuff, like I actually signed up for that in like 8 years ago or something, and I didn't end up going. But I've shied away from doing it because there's just a lot of people for me, like 500 people. But so I'm kind of curious to see if I care that there's so many people doing it.
Like how it's
I think it's just going to be a Congo line for you.
Yeah, that's like why I kind of didn't want to do it. But I don't really care. I mean, I'm just doing it because I want to go to that place and
you'll
whatever.
I think you'll be fine because parts of it I think are there's little sections that are runnable, but a lot of it's like.
Yeah, that's I'm not. I want the stuff that's not runnable.
Oh, it's not. No. When I say little sections, I mean like I think there's a parking lot at the top of the hill.
Okay.
Like like a one or two parking lots by there's like a house or something.
I'm just looking for like an excuse to go do something for whatever some number of hours. So it kind of seemed like a good plan, and I've never been there, so I kind of excited. So
who knows? I might show up.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I was on like 100th on the wait list, and then I got a spot. So, you could.
back to the schoolyard rule. Cultra Trail and the mountain air. Martin Dugard told it like he was there. Oh, Columbus, New World Runners Road. Same wild hunger, same heavy load. The long run, the long run. Rise and we run. The long run, the long run. Until the day is done. The long run, the long run. We live for the break when the body says stop. And the heart says take.
What if we start talking about Lance Armstrong and you know?
I'll talk about that. You know,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I saw that you covered the tour for many years when Lance was there, right?
yeah. No,
Phred, we got to save this for the podcast. What are you doing? You're like,
All right,
you're
all right.
burning all your matches, Phred.
I just want to make sure that that's okay.
It's-
We just
I know.
get right into
That's right.
like the
Yeah.
U.S. Postal team, and you know.
Okay. All right. Yep. And this is the right Marty. So very good.